So I just want to make a quick video on thought and emotions because it's something that I kind of feel like the world is in a bit of a crisis when it comes to the way people feel, the way that they relate to their internal environment is could really, I feel like there's people just don't understand how to relate to their internal environment, and it's causing all kinds of problems in in the way that people feel, in their mental health. Yeah, so I just want to put this out there because it's super important, and when you apply this, it's life changing. So I want to start by saying that I want to start by talking about peace, and I want to give a formula for peace. Peace is experience minus resistance to that experience. So we feel peaceful when we don't resist anything, when we just are experiencing. So the only time that you feel a disruption in your peace is when you are trying to make your experience different. You could be trying to, oh, maybe you just had like a hateful thought and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have that thought. And then you go into that thought and you're like, oh, why am I thinking that? I'm such a bad person for that, you know? Whereas you can experience a hateful thought and just observe it and not resist, right? Everyone has judgmental thoughts. Everyone has hateful thoughts sometimes, negative thoughts. But you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. And you experience peace when you just observe them. So you don't need to try and like wake up and be like, all right, I hope I have like loads of positive thoughts today and loads of positive emotions, because the more you try and have positive thoughts and you're like, I only want the positive thoughts and I only want the emotions that feel good, that make me feel good, then that's like a formula for distress, not peace. The opposite of peace is when when you're like, I only want this specific experience, right? Like, let's say like this whole screen on your laptop or phone, wherever you're watching, is like all of experience that you can have. And so I just gave a formula for peace. This is the formula for distress. The formula for distress is to say, I want this experience. So look at where this like circle is on your screen, and the entire screen is what you can experience, what life will just present to you. And then the formula for distress is saying, I only want this. So throughout the day, anything that's not this, I'll try and push away, I'll try and resist, I'll be like, oh, I don't want that. That's the formula for distress, is to say, I want this. And the formula for peace is saying, just give me what, like, let anything come up, you know, let to say, I want experience, to make the, yeah, to just accept experience. You can think of a day maybe that you've had recently, or yeah, a day where you felt peaceful, and you might fall into the trap of thinking, I know why I felt peaceful. I felt peaceful because everything went well that day. You know, I had pleasant interactions with people. You know, my boss was nice to me. You know, I did well at work. Things went well. But that's not why you felt peaceful. Your peace actually has no, is not impacted by the events in your life, ever. And you can fall into the trap of thinking like, yes, they are. You can fall into the trap even of thinking that these events control your peace, and that you are at the whim of these events. You are the victim, you know, kind of like um, life chooses whether you are peaceful or not, but you are always the one choosing. And the reason you experienced peace that day is not because things went well. It's because you weren't resisting. You were in the experience. You were in the moment, and you weren't resisting the moment. And it just so happens that things were going well, and so therefore you weren't resisting. But you can also choose to not resist when things are not going well. You can choose to not resist even when, let's say, you have an interaction with someone that makes you feel like, oh, you know, like fuck this person. You know, the mind's like fuck this person, and maybe you feel like pissed off or whatever. You can have just as much peace on that day as on the day where you have just loads of positive interactions, because you can use the same formula. It's just maybe right now you're applying that formula for peace on the good days. On those days, you say, oh, okay, well, I'm just in the moment. But then on the bad days, when things don't go as smoothly, then you resist. Or the mind resists. So the mind resists, and then you go into that. But you can also observe the mind resisting on those days where you just have an interaction with someone and you don't feel good after, and then the mind's judging that person and judging the whole resisting and stuff. You can observe that, and when you're just observing that, then you're at peace, because the present moment is peace. It's total peace. There's always peace in the moment, whatever moment it is. Whether it's a good moment or a bad moment, the moment is always peaceful. The thing that makes you step out of the peace is you, or your mind, actually. Your mind makes you step out of it. And then when the mind is resisting, you have the choice still to observe that resistance. So it's like you keep going backwards. You're in the moment, and then the mind is like, oh, but it goes sort of behind you. You know, it sneaks up behind you, like through the back door, and it's like, oh, fuck this moment. This moment's not what I want it to be. And then you step backwards, and you're like, I see what you're doing. I see you're resisting, you know? So it's like, you gotta be mindful. And if you're not mindful, then it's going to be so easy for the mind to sneak up behind you and be like, fuck this experience, fuck this moment, fuck this person, why the blah, 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 all of that stuff, right? It's going to be so easy for the mind to do that, and it's going to do it really often. So you're going to be very often not in peace. It's going to be only rare that you feel peaceful. But if you become mindful, then you're strengthening your awareness muscle, if you will. Like when you meditate, for example, you're strengthening your awareness muscle. So you're sharp, your mind's sharper, you're observing your thoughts, it becomes much more habitual for you to do that. So when it steps into the back door, it's much quicker for you to like step back behind it and be like, oh, I see you judging, I see you resisting, and that's okay. I'm not gonna try to make you not resist. I'm not gonna try to make you not judge, because then that's just the mind stepping back again. If you find yourself judging and not wanting to judge, that's just the mind going back and back and back. So ultimately what you want to do is just keep stepping backwards and just keep observing. The mind will resist, and the mind will judge. It's what it does, and it's okay. It's not up to you to micromanage that and try to make it not do that, because then that's the mind resisting itself again. It's up to you to just keep stepping backwards and observe it, and then you're like, oh, I see it judging, and then you feel like you're resisting the judgment, and then you're like, whoop, you feel like you're resisting the judgment, and then you step back again. So you can have peace in any moment. because peace is experience minus resistance to what is.